Hi y'all. Long time no slime. Get it? Cause it's like long time no see. Anyway, so welcome back to my channel, Kings and Queens and In-Betweens. Today we're talking about it's a cringe react to transphobia. Cause okay, let me lay out my bullet points. One, you probably all can't even name one trans person in your life. Like I come from the queer community. And knowing people that transition in my personal life, friends, seeing people that I can obviously, not to be mean, clock that they're trans, or gay clubs I've gone to, and be like, oh, there's a trans person. I actually met a old time, well, not old time, um, back in OG YouTube, I met a trans YouTuber that I loved. I even bought their music off of iTunes. I met them at a gay club. So I probably have like 20 people that could come to my mind that I know are trans or have seen trans people. I'm part of the LGBT community. So one, it's not that big of a deal. You don't even know people like that. Same thing with the non-binary people. Like they'll be like, oh, some people want me to call them they, them. Name one person that asked you to do that. And I'm sorry for their mental health, and I guess for yours because you're obsessed. Mama, just leave them alone. You don't have to talk to them. If you work with them, just call them by their name. Simple as that. But none of you or anyone works with a non-binary person goes by they, them. If you do, you'll live. You'll live. Someone being like, hey, I go by they, them. And you'd be like, oh, you're compelling my speech. No, we compel speech in other ways, but no one gets mad at that. Like, for example, when you're in school, you call your teacher or your principal, blah, 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 Mr., Mrs., last name. You don't call them by their first name. If you do, that's offensive. But a trans person or non-binary person, well, they're both trans, but you know what I mean. If they just go by a preferred pronoun, and you're not getting people that are going by Z's or them, calm down. We don't like you can't even name one they them person. You're like those people that go by those pronouns. Like, okay, that's a whole nother thing. But we find that incredibly offensive if you call teacher by a first name. We find it offensive if you've misgendered a dog or a cat. Like, you've ever misgendered someone's pet, they'll correct you real quick on what their gender is. And same thing with baby. Like, for my job, I work in customer service. I'll go out of my way if I can't tell, obviously, it's a boy or a girl, because, when they're infants, they all look alike. They have big, pudgy cheeks, big eyes, and there's no secondary sex characteristics. I'll just be like, oh, that's such a cute baby. Oh, they are so cute. I will not gender them because I don't want to upset the parent and have that be a thing. But people correct you on their baby's gender real quick. But you, as a full functioning adult, can't muster up that same energy of politeness to a trans person. Just say you don't like trans people, mama. Let's not get into this, oh, it's compelled speech. Like I said, we have other areas. Like, you would call your doctor Dr. Black, not Black, blah, 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 blank, their last name. No one cares about that. So let's be for real. Like, you're not gonna be like, actually, I don't really approve of your doctorate. Don't care how long or what school you went to. It's your first and last name, and you're lucky if I even call you your last name because I do not respect you. Come on, Mom. Come on. But let's be for realsies. Okay. So, trans people are a big enough issue of it. People make it. And let's get into it. So, I want to talk about trans children. No, I'm majorly talking about people who start transitioning around puberty, going into adulthood, which would be 18. So, children who end up taking puberty blockers, no, it hasn't been a major harm to those children because if they decide to get off puberty blockers, they'll just start puberty and go through whatever gender they are or sex, like male going to male puberty, female going to female puberty. Like, it doesn't harm them. And I think the only thing of from my research is you might lose bone density. Ask me what bone density is or what it does. I couldn't tell you, but apparently they might lose some bone density going on puberty blockers. And no one talks about this, that in, for, let's say, a non-trans child, if your thyroid's out of whack, which controls your hormones, you will be put on puberty/hormone blockers. Like, mama, no one talks about that. No one's saying, oh my gosh, you're hurting our children by putting them on hormone blocker. Like, puberty blockers were made way before, puberty blockers were made way before trans children started taking them. Like, that's just a fact. Sorry, someone's about to drive through. So, no one cares. No one cares. Let's be honest. No one cares. And the fact that people try to act like that's harmful when, like I said, from my research, I think the only side effect is maybe bone density being lost. And like I said, no one can even, I can't even explain to you what bone density is or what it does for you. Sorry, someone's about to drive through. So yeah, another person's coming through. Great. So I might edit this part out. So anyway, back to the trans discussion. And they're like, oh, our children are being groomed to be trans. Mama, I'm sorry. If you decide to become trans because you saw someone doing drag, a trans person, or anyone just existing in a queer life, mama, the closet was made of glass. The closet was made of glass. Like, literally, we had Bugs Bunny doing drag, and I think Bugs Bunny came out in the 70s. We had Mrs. Doubtfire, Tyler Perry, Medea, was it Big Mama's House, and so many more, not trans, but obviously they're cross-dressing. And no one said that was grooming back then. And we all love those films, but obviously if trans people or people who cross-dress, which isn't the same thing, but I'm kind of lumping them into one because that's how people who are anti-trans paint this picture that drag queens, trans people, same diff, right? They're degenerates grooming children. Mama, no one saw those things growing up and it's like, yes, I am trans now. There wasn't a big fear back then, but today there is, just because queer people are living their lives semi-happily. Like, if queer people would be 10 times happy if y'all just left them alone. So no one thinks that's grooming, and we all grew up on those movies, TV shows, Bugs Bunny, like literally mama in and out of drag constantly. But I forget who made this point, but it's such a good point that queerness taken as a joke is okay, but queerness being lived out loud and all seriousness is a problem, because no one thought Robin Williams was grooming the children when he played Mrs. Doubtfire. And also, if a straight person cosplay as a queer person, no, I don't know, I forget what governor it was or what political person, someone that's anti-trans, mama showed that he did Powerpuff, which I don't know if every school had this, but we did, where basically the cheerleaders would play touch football or tag or flag football in football gear, and the football boys in our high school would dress up in drag as cheerleaders, cheer the girls on, doing a roll flip, and this governor, senator, whatever, you could Google it, did the same thing, but he's anti-trans. But were you a groomer back then when you did the same thing? So straight people, not to mention Halloween, how many straight guys dressed in drag or some form of like queer representation, no one's thinking, oh my gosh, so on Halloween we have to be really afraid of these straight people walking around our children on the streets getting candy because they're in drag. Okay. All right. Speak on it. Speak on it. So no one cares about that. No one says that's grooming, but just a trans person existing, whether it's on the internet or real life, they're a groomer. Okay. And like I said, if no one's seeing that as a young adult back then turned out trans, what's the difference today? Oh, wait, you're making a big boogie monster out of it, a propaganda spree where you smear queer people as, I don't even know if I'm on to say the word, people who really like children. I don't want this video to get taken down because one is too much work and I don't want to refilm it. So people who really like children, you paint queer people as that, but you don't really give a shit when it really does happen in real life. Like, you know, like how many Facebook posts, Twitter posts I've seen where it's like, young female teacher, age 31, slept with 15-year-old boy in high school, blah, blah, blah. She was her English teacher, blah, blah. You know how many men are thirst posting in those comments being like, oh my gosh, luckiest man alive, like wish it was me, like I'm jealous, like did she even commit a crime or did she just give him like the best gift of life? Like literally don't care about people who really like children in that case, but they'll flip it and just see a queer person living their life and being like, oh my gosh, stop grooming our children, when it's the same thirst dads posting on Facebook that they wish they were molested by their hot teacher when they were in high school. Okay, go off. So no one cares about that. Oh, and let's talk about, oh, and not to mention, if we want to talk about true drag performance art, mama, let's roll all the way back to the 80s when people were doing hair rock metal. Mama, full face paint, hair on hair on hair. Tell me that ain't a drag queen. And sometimes I was like, in my mind, I'm like, the only thing they're missing is high heels. Some of them wearing platform boots or shoes, and it's like, but that's not drag because it's done by a straight person. But mama, that's the equivalent of a drag queen. A drag king. Mama, that's a masculine drag performance. But I was masculine drag performance, mama, very masculine, giving feminine daytime butch. But everyone lived for those 80s hair metal bands with full makeup, long hair, platform boots, shoes. Everyone lived for them. But that's not grooming. Okay. All right, let's get into everyone's favorite, because everyone needs to paint transness as a life-altering decision when there's other life-altering decisions that parents make for their children or children make for themselves that parents co-sign that no one talks about. So we all know people who care about transness, one, to the point where they're painting us, not like the queer community, as groomers, people who really like children. When they go to that level, we all know they're being hypocrites. What they really want to say, but they don't have the balls to say, is trans people are disgusting. I view them as degenerate people who like children, but I don't care when it's done by the school, the church, or any straight person. Like, who cares about that? Like, child marriage, who? Like, that still exists, but we don't really care about that. Or when it comes out, one of our favorite Republican leaders really likes underage girls, we'll turn a blind eye to that because that's fake news. Even when there's a mountain of proof, that it doesn't matter. But let's get on to, they love to pull this one out. Genital mutilation. How I see it, and I'm sure there's outliers, but how I see it is, let's say you're 11 and you're like, I want to transition. You get on puberty blockers, like we already talked, not that much harm is used for non-queer children who have hormones out of whack, so it's relatively safe. Let's say they're on puberty blockers for 4 years and they're 15 now. They're like, actually, I really do want to transition. So let's say from the age of 15 to 18, they're on estrogen or testosterone. And now they're finally 18. And let's say they want to get top surgery if they're female to male, or let's say they're male to female and they want to get a boob job. Like, okay, they're fully grown adults at that time. Well, legally, they're fully grown adults at that time, and they can make those decisions for themselves. And everyone's like, well, look at this one case where blah, blah, blah. But like most of the time, that's how it happens. Okay, let me point out some genital mutilation that no one seems to care about, but happens probably right now. Right now, genital mutilation is actually happening, but no one really gives a damn. Mama, circumcision. Like, does everyone kind of forget that is actual genital mutilation and is done in hospitals right now? But you're concerned about people going to get estrogen for their children when there's full-blown parents mutilating a child's genitals for no other reason than culture, aesthetic, and perceived things of like it's easier for the child to clean themselves or for the parents when they're bathing to clean their genitals, which I don't even know if that's fact. I doubt it. And even if it is harder for a child to clean themselves or the parents to bathe them when they're young, you're still, I think if the baby knew it had the concept of like, you're going to mutilate me because it's easier for you to clean me or for me to clean myself, I think a lot of them would choose, no, I'd rather you not mutilate my genitals. So no one talks about circumcision. No one cares because it's culturally accepted. But that's actual genital mutilation. But that's okay with y'all. But apparently genital mutilation, when 18-year-old trans person decides they want to get surgeries to make them feel more comfortable by their body, that's the worst thing in the world. But you're making a lifelong decision for an infant that can't consent, doesn't even have the prefrontal context developed to know what you're doing to them, and you're just doing it because everyone else does it. But people will point fingers at these parents dealing with trans children, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're mutilating your child. You want to mutilate your child. At least the child at that age has enough consciousness and knowledge of themselves to talk to their parents about wanting puberty blockers, hormones, and wanting to eventually get gender reassignment surgery. At least they can talk about how they're feeling about themselves. But you're making this decision for these young men. Well, eventually they'll become men. These young boys, you're making that everlasting decision for their genitals. But that's okay. Because they're not icky, degenerate trans kid, right? So you could just mutilate your child and think it's peaches and cream. Okay, go off, sis. But I'm going to call some names right now. Well, you know what? Flip it. I'm not calling out any names. I'm just going to make a broad sweeping statement because it could fit so many people. So many right-wing political people, Congress senators, political commenters, news people who are on the right wing that fearmonger about trans people, trans children, parents of trans children. How many of them have had sons and got them genitally mutilated? Really, like, let's talk about, like, are you monsters? Like, there's laws, I think in Florida, I forget if they pass, that if a parent of a trans child tries to get them puberty blockers, hormone replacement, that they could be taken away. But why wasn't your child taken away from you when you knowingly let a doctor mutilate your child as soon as it was born? But no one talks about that because y'all are hypocrites. And if y'all really wanted to protect children, you'll want to make laws about trans kids can't play sports, trans people can't exist, blah, 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 blah. But you won't do anything about gun control. These same people that will write laws into existence trying to control trans people's lives and trans kids' lives, y'all write that into law, but you won't do anything about actual children getting massacred when they're just trying to go to school. I know it's America. I'm not talking about take away all guns, but we're all BSing ourselves if we can't find an agreement that there should be more gun regulation where, you know, the people say, oh, the only thing that'll stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Okay, then let's make sure more bad guys don't get guns. Can we at least figure out a happy medium where people love the Second Amendment and people that want to protect their children from gun violence? Can we find like a happy medium where you people who hate trans people write laws to protect children from these groomers, but you won't do nothing about actual violence? Like, ask me if I'd rather have a dead child at the age of 11 or my kid coming up to me at the age of 11 saying, I want to transition. And my child was killed in the school, or my child goes through the horrors of transitioning because of bullying and all this other stuff. That's preventable because you just not be a dick. Like, you just let people live their lives. Ask me which one ever I have, a dead child or a live child. Not to mention when trans people are allowed to transition and do what they want with their lives, not affecting your life, their lives, their suicide rate goes down. I forget the exact um percentage, but I think it was one a trans person having one person they could confide to in life that supports them and loves them drops trans suicide rate down exponentially. But y'all are more focused on fear mongering than actually protecting children. But y'all will never talk about that because that doesn't get you votes. That doesn't get you more money from lobbying. That doesn't get you the unwavering support of a scary other. Because if you actually start talking about maybe, hey, we should do gun regulation because we seem to have a gun violence problem in America. We're not trying to take your guns away, but we're trying to make it safe and make it so people who are able to own guns, make sure these are the right people. You will never say that because you'll lose money, privilege, and power. But you'll fearmonger about a trans child, but trans people are like 1% of the population. You'll fearmonger about them and groomers when you don't actually care about real groomers. You'll fearmonger about them, but you actually won't do anything about a real life issue. Okay, go off. See what? Okay, let's talk about trans kids and sports. Mama, I'm gonna put it out there. A trans baby playing against your kid and whatever kiddie sport. Like, I grew up playing sports. Ain't nothing miraculously happening. Ain't no cool plays going on. Ain't no one gonna be in the NFL, soccer league. No one gonna be a professional hockey player. Like, your kid ain't gonna become a professional gymnast and win an Olympic gold. I'm sorry, it don't matter. Sports are for fun. And there's a very select few who gain the privilege through their athleticism to go on to play for college, professional, or are recognized for their talent in the Olympics. Select few. That one trans kid playing on your team ain't gonna make a difference. Literally, there ain't gonna be a difference. And at the end of the day, what? I think I won nationals once with my soccer team. I was a goalie. I didn't have to do much because my team was amazing. And I barely had to block aim balls. We won nationals. Didn't make an outcome of my life. And if a trans person was on my team or the opposite team, really wouldn't make a difference in any of our lives because my life is still this way, whether I won the nationals or not. So, and let's get into it. If a trans kid, let's say, because everyone loves to fearmonger about male into female because male are bigger, and then we'll get into the flip of that, but men are bigger, they go through puberty, blah, blah, blah. If a trans child goes through puberty blockers, they never experience a male puberty. Their body's never pumped with testosterone, which makes them have a growth spurt, gain muscle mass easily, be able to just basically work out two days a week, and they have like 6-pack abs because of testosterone. In fact, they're probably at like a slighter disadvantage because unless your dad's like Hulk Hogan and Ronda Rousey, you're probably not going to have like insane athletic genes playing like soccer with these other like 10 to 11-year-old girls when you're on puberty blockers. Like, you're probably not going to be the Incredible Hulk before puberty. So it don't really make a difference if the kids on puberty blockers, because their male puberty hasn't gave them that unfair advantage. Like, okay, like you really care anyway. You notice how everyone started caring about women's sports now that trans people are fearmongered about? You can't catch anyone talking about women's sports until this became an issue. And is it really an issue? Like I say, you can't even name one trans person in your life. You probably have to travel like 2 states to find one trans girl, age of 13, all puberty blockers playing with the girls' team. Like, you probably have to travel states to find that. But no, oh my gosh, trans people, scary. So that's insane. And then what else is going on? So, like, I don't give a damn. Sports are dumb to me. Sports are for fun, and that's about it. And if you're a professional and get paid for it, good for you. Love that for you. But it ain't that deep, mama. It ain't that deep. Like, people rather pretend that they care about women's sports to just have a blanket shield to hate trans people when they ain't even showing up to Lil Susie's game. Like, you all, people who are obsessed with trans people, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna assume if you are a parent, you're probably lacking in some fields of parenting. Because if I was a parent, I would not be obsessed with anyone else's child. I would be obsessed with making sure I was doing the best parenting job for my child. I wouldn't really give a damn about another trans person. A trans kid, when you don't even have to interact with them. You just whip yourself up to a frenzy of fear. But like, what if little Susie someday is playing soccer in high school and there's this trans female, which is actually really a dude, playing with her, and like they're a hormone replacement and puberty blockers and never experienced an ounce of testosterone, an ounce of male puberty, but that's not an unfair advantage. Where? Just say you hate trans people and you think they're gross and move on. Like, literally, it'll be less pathetic on your side, because we all know what you're trying to say through these dog whistles. We all know you just don't really give a damn about women's sports. You just don't like trans people. Gosh, what else do I want to talk about? All right, I'm gonna switch it to religion real quick. People love to act like queerness, whether you think it's a sin or not. People love to act like queerness is one of the biggest sins to ever exist. When I'm pretty sure, I'm not a theologian, I'm not a Bible scholar, I'm a Christian, I researched the Bible because I'm interested in certain things, I want to know more, but I could not tell you for a fact of like what is going on. So anyway, sorry, that was weird. People like to act like transness is like the biggest sin, or queerness is the biggest sin in the Bible. Like I said, whether you agree it isn't or isn't a sin, doesn't matter, because God loves them the same. And I'm pretty sure every sin is, God in the Bible said, no, not one of you is righteous, no, not one. So whether your sin is murder, lying, or in this case, whether, I don't know, I've seen contrary evidence, but let's just say, for example, being queer is a sin. God still loves you and you're still a sinner. You're no better than another sinner because you waited till you're married to have sex and the person beside you had 20 bodies and then they got married. You're still not good enough. In God's eyes, you're still a sinner. they're still a sinner. I used this analogy before. Like, let's say you're a mother and you're telling your children, hey, no cookies before dinner. I know I just made these cookies, but don't eat them before dinner. And then your two spouses are fighting in the other, not spouses, I'm sorry. Your two siblings are fighting in the other room, and your mom walks away and scolds them, says, stop fighting, that's annoying, stop. Like, I'm about to have dinner done, I don't need this. She comes back in, and you're stealing a cookie from the cookie jar. Your mom's like, why are you doing that? I just told you don't steal a cookie from the cookie jar. Dinner's about to be ready. And you, as a little kid, say to your mom, well, I'm not as bad as Timmy and Johnny because they were fighting in the other living room, and fighting's bad, mommy. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe punching your sibling in the face is a little bit worse than stealing a cookie before dinner. But your mom did just tell you, don't do that. And that is not right because I'm about to have dinner. You have a cookie after dinner. So that's kind of how I see it when people point fingers at sinners to be like, well, they're gay. I'm not gay. I just blah, 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 blah. Insert some small sin in their mind. Okay, but you're still a sinner. And just because you think someone else is a worse sinner than you, turns out they're still just a sinner. And God loves you equally. Like, just because someone else is doing something worse than you, in your mind, doesn't mean you aren't doing something bad too, especially if you're a Christian. Like I said, roll back to that Bible verse. I forget what Bible verse it is. No, not one of you is righteous. No, not one. Let's humble ourselves and actually show Christ's love for people. Like, I swear that people will literally have more forgiveness for a person who's actually harming people than they would for a queer person. Like, they might be like, oh, this person did A, Y, and Z, but they're reformed. Like, they've changed. And the person could have done, like, horrendous things, which is good to have forgiveness because we all want to be forgiven. Like, God has, and Jesus has forgiven us. But y'all will treat that person with more respect when they actually harmed someone versus a queer person just living their life. Because what it really comes down to is you think that queer person's disgusting, and you can rationalize and feel better about, or maybe feel even more righteous about letting a person who's actually harmed someone in your house versus a queer person, and you just be like, I don't know, like, they're living an active sin lifestyle. Like, y'all don't. Like, in the Bible, like I said, not a theologian, not a Bible scholar. I forget the verse, but it says, the thought of foolishness is a sin. So even something like having a foolish thought, which I have, mama, my thought life is not good. A lot of issues, not good. That is a sin. But y'all paint like, oh my gosh, you're queer. Wow, that's disgusting. You're a real sinner. Like, you aren't one. Like, we all aren't one. So let's use some of that Christ love for us and transfer it over to our neighbors and love them through the eyes of God like he loves us, even though we failed, we've sinned, we've gone against him. Let's just treat people with respect and kindness like you would want to be treated with respect and kindness because it's the right thing to do. And it doesn't hurt to do it. Literally doesn't affect you. Let God parent his children and you just be kind to them. Can we do that, please? It's not that hard to just love someone, whether you don't agree with anything about their life. You think everything about their life is icky. Okay, you could just be respectful. That costs nothing. Like, you don't have to be like, actually, when I'm nice to someone, that's co-signing their sinful behavior. Or it's just called being nice and loving them. Like, God loves you. Even though you're a sinner, God still chose to love you. Jesus still chose to die for all of mankind's sins. Even though we're sinful, we're icky, we're gross, we're disgusting in the eyes of God. Obviously, I'm like paraphrasing. But we are sinners in the eyes of God. I'm being hyperbolic. I don't know if paraphrasing was the right word. I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm saying we're not righteous in front of God, but God still chose to love us. but you can't even ounce like a kernel of love for a Christian, well, sorry, for a queer person. But you're all supposed to be about loving, forgiveness, non-judgmental. Come on, girly, come on. Please, like, if you can't be kind to someone, you could just not ignore them, but you could just leave them alone. That is also a kinder way. Like, what is it? Is it from Bambi? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all or anything at all. Like, that is, I guess, a form of kindness. You're like, wow, I can't help myself from not being a jerk to this person. I'll just have to walk away. Hey, that's better than calling them names, being gross to them, just having disgusting behavior towards them. Hey, that is a win too, I guess. All right, slime cadets, I guess that's all I have to say about this topic. Jesus loves you, drink water, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.